Hello, everybody. My name is Rebecca, and unfortunately, I'm just getting over the cold, so this is going to be my voice for the next 15 minutes for you. I apologize. I'm going to try to get through this, but it should be fine. So, for this second video discussion, I decided to talk about James Madison. James Madison was an American statesman that was born March 16, 1751, and died June 28, 1836. He was a Democrat Republican that became president in 1808 and served 2 terms. During his life, he owned more than 3,000 acres of land and unfortunately dozens of slaves. He was married to Lady Dolly Madison in his life. So he could be remembered for many things, like being Thomas Jefferson's Secretary of State while he was president before he served his own term. And he was a very influential figure in county affairs. And as we learned this week, he is one of our founding fathers that helped in the contribution to the Constitution and also played a huge role at the Constitutional Convention. During his time at this convention, he had the role of chief recorder of information between the representatives. So he essentially he he had all the notes and information that was discussed during this time. So even though he is memorable for many different aspects in his life, I'm going to discuss the time that he spent during the Constitutional Convention, as well as his contribution to the Constitution and his creation of the Bill of Rights. This week and last was a very influential week for us because we had the opportunity to learn about the men that had fought for our independence. I think it was very interesting to learn about it again as an adult because it gives us the chance to comprehend it better than when we were younger first learning about it. It's something to me I think that it really built the American spirit because these men, you read about these men fighting and how they never gave up and they fought their lives because they believed in their country. And to me, that's really powerful. So I think America has obviously changed over the many years between different leaders and society changing as a whole, with technology advancing and other things playing into effect. But something that hasn't died is the love that our Americans have for our country and how people continue to fight for their rights and their freedom. To me, it's something that makes our country great. So I think it's easy to forget certain details about history when we learn about them when we're young. So that's why I decided to pick James Madison for this video assignment, because he was one of the key players in helping America form its independence and create a constitution that would protect our rights as a citizen. I also wanted to learn more about him by doing further research in his time for the Constitutional Convention. Madison was one of the men, and actually a representative from Virginia, that met in Philadelphia for the Constitutional Convention in May of 1787. They decided to hold this convention because they needed all the states' participation in order to come to an agreement on fixing the current Articles of Confederation. But we soon figure out that they decide to change it entirely and make it into the Constitution we have today. The convention was given the power to resolve important defects in the system of the federal government. So they had 39 men who believed that this new document would balance the interests of the states. So they decided how they could come up with this new document. It would address and find an agreement that would make all the states happy and not just the bigger ones with a high population. They wanted a compromise that would better all of them, not just the few big ones. So the representatives kept disagreeing and bickering, which made it complicated for this Constitution to become a law because they needed at least 2/3 of the 13 states to approve and ratify this in order for it to happen. So they came up with a conclusion that started representation for the states is going to be made up of population, and then the Senate will be equal for all states, bringing 2 senators from each state. So this was the best way they could compromise, trying to make them all happy. Madison then begins his journey to make amendments that would better the citizens. So when learning about the material this week, this is kind of why I found Madison, to be the most interesting to me. He was a man that took the 85 essays and Federalist Papers and turned them into amendments to the Constitution 2 years after it was created. These amendments were called the Bill of Rights. This is something that actually made Madison the father of the Constitution. Something I found interesting from this video this week, from the discussion board, that could apply to this history lesson is how many people, even Madison, didn't really feel satisfied with the Bill of Rights. He intended for these Bill of Rights to guarantee our individual rights as citizens. He knew that these were natural rights that we were entitled to have, such as freedom of speech, religion, and press. He was afraid that in the creation of the Bill of Rights, it would be used in an unconstitutional way by Congress. He knew that since these were natural rights, he was afraid that Congress would try and restrict individuals from having other rights as citizens. Something to note during the creation of the Bill of Rights is how Madison wrote multiple essays and letters regarding the separation of church and state. So this is one of the reasons that he decided to form the Bill of Rights. I've actually found a quote from one of his letters titled, "What God Has Put Us Under." Sorry. The experience of the United States is a happy disproof of the error so long rooted in the unenlightened minds of well-meaning Christians, as well as in the corrupt hearts of persecuting usurpers, that without legal incorporation of religious and civil polity, neither could be supported. A mutual independence is found most friendly to practical religion, to social harmony, and to political prosperity. And that was a letter to F.L. Schaeffer, dated December 3rd, 1821. To practice religion, something that I took out of that is to practice religion to social harmony and political prosperity. To me, he's saying to have a religion and practice it peacefully without causing harm to anyone. This is what he wanted. Another two quotes that I found from the same essay starts from the section "Teaching the World" and "Other" from "No Intermeddling with Religion." We are teaching the world the great truth that governments do better without kings and nobles than with them. The merit will be doubled by the other lesson that religion flourishes in greater purity without than with the aid of government. That was a letter to Edward Livingston, July 10th, 1822. And "No intermeddling with religion" starts as, there is not a shadow of right in the general government to intermeddle with religion. Its least interference with it would be a most flagrant aspiration. I can appeal to my uniform conduct on this subject, that I have warmly supported religious freedom. That was one of his journals, dated June 12th, 1788. So I really enjoyed, these were just a couple that I picked out because I really enjoyed them, because it showed how passionate he was for people to be able to have religious freedom from the imposition of government. Because Madison fought for this separation, we're actually able to have this freedom that we have today. So to close my presentation, I just wanted to go back and talk about how these men actually fought for our freedom. Madison and the other delegates fought for equality between the states, which is how we were able to do many of the activities we have today. We have natural rights that will never be taken from us because of the father of the Constitution, James Madison, and many others. We are a country that is considered a melting pot with all different types of people that make us unique. But because of our founding fathers, we are able to enjoy more religious freedom than most countries. We're able to talk bad about our government freely, unless anyone is physically hurting someone or a group of people in the mix. And to me, this is a part of history most people claim to remember learning about, but I think some forget what these men actually went through and what men still go through today in order to keep our freedom. I'm glad I was able to relearn about James Madison so I can express my thanks to those that have fought for us. And I had fun learning about James Madison again. So I found that very interesting. Thank you.